this computer. Good afternoon. This is Michelle Padilla. I'm the host of the Awarness show. I took a little break, but we are coming back, and we got a lot of exciting, interesting stuff happening. And today I have Jeremy Lancaster. He's going to tell you guys what he does and why he got into the department. So, Jeremy, what is your title?
Yeah, hi, Michelle. So it's Jeremy Lancaster, and I am the state geologist and director of the California Geological Survey, a division within the Department of Conservation.
And what do you do? What?
All right. What do I? Yeah. Uh, So I manage the California Geological Survey. So I am the director. The California Geological Survey is comprised of about 160 geologists, engineers, um, GIS specialists, so geographic information specialists, geographers, um, administrative professionals, accounting professionals, just the kind of the whole gambit. And we, the CGS, prepares products and services about the state's geology, seismology, mineral resources, and their related hazards that affect the health, safety, and business interests of the people of California. Um, so on a day-to-day basis, I manage people and identify new projects that support California's needs.
And which we've been having a lot of disasters lately with all the reasons wildfires, earthquakes, everything. And I don't think you were here on Tuesday when we heard the loud boom. So it was on Tuesday, last Tuesday, and we're all coming back from lunch, and all of a sudden we stop what we're doing, and Nate runs out. He says, "Earthquake?" So he runs to CGS to see what's happening. There was no earthquake. So what
Ooh.
happened was it was a crane on top of the 21st floor, and they had a basket. So they were getting ready to wash the windows, and it dropped so loud that everybody stopped what they were doing.
The crane fell on the rooftop.
It was a basket. Some people were,
Just the basket. Okay.
yeah, but it was allowed. Yeah, our side heard it. CGS had nothing to do with it. So it's like,
Yeah. All right. Okay.
so see, that's one of the things that, when you're working in the 19th floor, you hear everything. You
Yeah.
see everything. And we do
Yep.
have a lot of earthquakes on the 19th floor. And people say, no, we don't, you know. And I was like, okay. So,
There's people have felt several earthquakes in the new building,
yep.
and they've been small, thankfully. And from what I've heard, the building is just sways softly.
Not when you're on the 19th floor. It feels like a roller coaster. It's like, whew. But no, I mean, so Jeremy, let me tell you a little about myself. I've been doing podcasting for almost 13 years now.
Wow.
Yes, I started at Cal State Dominguez, and the reason why I started it is because I found out I had a rare disease called 22q11, and it's a tiny piece of a chromosome. So I saw that they had a radio station, and I'm like, let's go for it. So I didn't know what I was going to talk about, and my dad would always text me because I had nothing to do with dead air, which Kaylee told you about. So my dad said, stick what you know, is talk about, and then we actually grew. We had celebrities on our show. We had Marion Ross on our show. We had Loretta Swift on our show. We had Don
Okay.
Wells, the late Don Wells. Uh,
Hmm.
Recently we just had Dean Butler from Little House on the Prairie, Allison. So and Dean Wallace from ET, and they all had
Okay.
different causes that was coming to the show. And Jerry Jewell back to life. So what they do is I have a friend who reaches out. And they have different causes and different events. So one
Okay.
of the main goals I wanted to do was make sure that people know about the resources, how can they get the resources, and what is department conservation is, and other departments that we have around here, because
Hmm.
I want to give back to the community and make sure they know what they're doing, you know, that they're aware of. So in the
Hmm.
disability community, they don't know who to contact in case of a big earthquake or a mudslide, nothing. So they're not prepared. So Is that where you guys come in?
That is, we do the scientific work that supports preparedness. And it's really the Office of Emergency Services that provides all of the emergency management and response level information.
Yeah. See, and that's why they don't understand the resources like me. So it's like, okay, so we'll start doing that. And then it grew. And so now we're on international, we go out at internationals, are invited to events. I've been on the Emmys a couple of times, Oscars. We have so much fun. So I do have a team back in LA who actually helps me with the video side and graphic designing. So during COVID, I learned how to um, convert MP3 videos into audio. And so I learned how to put that on YouTube or whatever you guys need. And I, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I learned that by myself with nobody's help. So I'm now able to do that video, change it to audio. It's a step-by-step process. It's a lot of fun, but like you, it's a lot of time. Um, One of the biggest things that I want to talk about was the Northridge earthquake. And that happened 30 years ago in LA.
Okay.
I was 17 years old. Um, my dad was in the shower and started shaking and everything. My big dress fell on the ground on my bed. So my mom was pulling me out, and that was a big earthquake. And because I was going to LA Unified School District, they shut it down for a whole week because of all the power outages like that. So my question is to you, Jeremy, what happens if we do have a big earthquake in Sacramento and people can't get to the elevators or they can get stuck or they're stuck on the stairs? What's going to happen to them?
So the best thing that you can do during an earthquake is to drop, cover, and hold on. That is the number one action that an individual can take. So you find something that's solid like a desk, um, you get under it, you drop to your knees, you cover your head, and you hold on to something. And we do that because what we found is during the strong shaking, the structure that you're in um, might be sound, it might be moving a lot, but
Right?
all of the non-structural stuff like the lighting, all of the panels in the ceiling, all of the steel in the ceiling, that all might fall down. And so that tends to do more damage to people than building collapse in California. So that's one of the primary actions. And then your question about elevators and stairs, well, it's recommended if you're experiencing a major earthquake, um, and you've gone through the period where the building's shaking, it stops shaking, and you want to listen for you want to talk to your floor warden, right? Most tall buildings in California have an emergency response plan where there's a floor warden or a series of floor wardens that manages an evacuation. They would be the ones responsible for determining whether you should be leaving, and you would not utilize the elevators. You would utilize the stairwells. The stairwells are designed to withstand the shaking, and they're also designed to withstand fire. So that would be the goal. Work with your floor warden and evacuate, if appropriate, through the stairwell system to your evacuation
Because
zone.
you do not want to get stuck in the elevator when it happens.
Don't, yeah, people get stuck in elevators without earthquakes because the elevators they're electronic
Yeah.
systems now, so they fail.
Another another question I had is if you're on a bus coming to work or going home and the ground starts shaking, what happens?
If you're on a bus, that is a good question. If the ground is shaking severely, the bus is going to experience, the surface waves. They're going to impact the bus. what you want, if you're the driver of that bus, you're going to want to pull that bus over to the curb and to a stop, because those, strong shaking could tip a bus over if it's in motion, and
Yeah.
it's turning or something like that. Now, if you're a passenger on that bus, the there's not as much of a risk of things falling on you inside of a bus. So like the hazards to your head
Yeah.
are not quite the same as being inside of a building. So I would just suggest bracing yourself in your seat. Most city buses do not have a seatbelt, but now if you're in a multi-passenger bus, having a seatbelt on and bracing yourself in your seat would probably be the best thing to do.
Yeah, because a lot of people are coming, going to work and they're like, uh-oh, are we having an earthquake? And
Mhm.
I don't know what to do. Because I know some of the buses don't have airbags in the backs, in the way back.
No, no, right, right, yeah,
And that can be
yeah,
kind of dangerous.
yes, yeah, and that's and the concern there is just collision, right? Like the
Yeah.
bus driver loses control because the ground is shaking violently and is unable to stop the bus and collides with something like a pole or another car. So bracing yourself, if you are in a bus with seat belts, making sure your seat belts are on. Most don't. So bracing yourself in the seat as best as you can is probably the best action you can take.
You don't get that question a lot about transportation, do you? That's a
No.
on the awareness show, I'm trying to catch you guys off guard a little bit. So don't mind me. But no, it's just one of the things I learned during the awareness show and watching other people's interviews and stuff like that. I know that you guys have apps for alerts. Do you know what the apps are?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do. So the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services has developed an app called MyShake.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an app that you can download for an Apple or Android phone, that connects to the West Coast Shake Alert system. So the
Oh.
West Coast Shake Alert system is for Washington, Oregon, and California. It is run by the USGS in concert with um, other partners like the California Geological Survey. We provide monitoring data to the Shake Alert system. So, anyways, that MyShake app, you sign up, you provide, you allow it to assess your location, to
Mm-hmm.
access your location, sorry, and it will tell you if there is a large earthquake. It'll give you the amount of time anticipated before the strong shaking occurs.
Oh, wow. And is it always accurate? Is it, you know, to your
It
best
is
knowledge?
it is very accurate when the earthquake is distant from you. So a large earthquake that's distant from a city, it's a very accurate system. Small to moderate earthquakes, if you're right over the earthquake epicenter, you're
Yeah.
not going to receive an alert because um, it takes time, usually 5 seconds um, for the seismic energy to move away from that epicenter
Yeah.
and be detected by our sensors. So we first have to detect the seismic energy with the sensors before we can send the alerts. So there's a 5 second delay. So you're going to feel that earthquake if you're right over it without receiving an alert.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And then my next question, what was the biggest earthquake in California history of all time? If if that's a good question.
Of all times, the largest earthquake in a metropolitan or near a metropolitan area was the 1906 earthquake.
That
That
was
was in
in San Francisco?
San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was in that affected San Francisco. The rupture of that of the San Andreas Fault, went as far north as north of Marin, and south of San Francisco. Magnitude 7.8. The city was fairly populous at that time, and then the largest earthquake that we know of, when there was there was, we'll call it, um, European civilization, was the Fort Tajon earthquake of 1950 or 1857. Sorry, the
Wow.
Fort Tajon earthquake of 1857. I believe that was like a magnitude 8.2.
Wow. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And there's a
And
lot.
so earthquakes that are that big will shake for 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. And then we also know we talk about the Ring of Fire. That's been earthquakes a lot lately. I think, what is it? I think it's Alaska, Japan, Australia, California. I forget the other ones. I can't remember all.
Yeah, it's the entire Pacific
Realm,
rim.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's essentially all of the west coast of the United States, Canada, Alaska, the very far east coast of Russia, and then Japan, and then all the way down through, essentially through New Zealand, and southeast of New Zealand.
Now, people people say that California will break into two sections if they ever had a big earthquake. Is that true or is that false?
That is false.
Okay. Why is that?
So, so if we take for example the magnitude the 1906 earthquake that was magnitude 7.8 or so, we didn't have the seismometers to detect. We didn't have the level of sophistication at the time. Actually, we didn't have the Richter scale and the seismometers that were developed in the 20s and 30s to detect that earthquake. Um, However, what we did measure is the maximum offset that earthquake produced at the ground surface, which was about 30 feet. So we don't anticipate earthquakes much larger than that in California. So if the maximum offset is only 30, let's say 40 feet during one earthquake event, that is not going to tear California in half or cause part of California to fall off into the ocean. Now, in geologic time, you take you take 10 of those, right? And now
Yeah,
you're talking about, instead of 30 feet, 10 of those is about 300 feet,
right.
right? So in geologic time, as hundreds of those occur, yes, the San Francisco Peninsula and much of the California coast all the way down to, San Diego is moving northwest
Right.
relative to the rest of the United States.
See,
But it'll take millions of years, to see our coastal communities moved off the coast
right.
because of the San Andreas Fault.
So, and then the next question, you talk about technology. So, one of the things is AI technology. Are you guys using that anyway to with mapping and earthquakes right now? And how do you feel about that? This is my question.
Um, we, AI is used really what we like to use the term machine learning or statistical learning, um, to evaluate, past earthquake data, and understand, really to understand how to create a predictive model from past data. And so that's, machine learning. We do utilize it, to process and provide, um, predictive predictive results. And so, how do I feel about it? Um, I think it's a tool. It's a tool that's in our toolbox. Um, the one thing that I don't like about machine learning versus classical statistical analyses is that you seem to have less visibility into the um, how the processing is being
Yeah,
done.
and
Uh,
I think it still needs to be worked on. Get all the all the kinks out and all that stuff.
sure.
Um, there's a good side and then there's a bad side. And for people with disability, they say that is a good side. and so it's earthquake. But if you're talking about graphic designers and artists, they do not like using AI because AI is stealing their artwork. So my question is, will AI still mapping that you guys are doing? Like if somebody were to hack into, I'm just saying for like I guess like if say they want to know map and then they all of a sudden figure out AI stuff. Can that be a threat to CGS or
No, y we don't. Yeah, I think I understand what you're talking about, but we don't utilize AI for making decisions,
yeah,
right? We supervise, we use machine learning models, which is a subset of AI.
yeah,
We supervise the results of those models before we determine whether or not we're going to use them.
yeah,
And so I think as long as, because we have the public good and public safety in mind. We are, as state servants, supposed to be good stewards of resources, especially with respect to the public and public safety. So, we have licensed professionals that we make sure are reviewing the results of any machine learning algorithm before we're utilizing it in a way that um, could be, used for decision making purposes.
yeah. That's it. I mean, the reason why I'm asking because AI right now is a huge topic,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what the agencies in each state of California felt like using AI.
Hmm.
So like I said, it's a hot topic, and that
Yep.
was one of the awareness and resources I wanted to bring up. I know, kind of sprung it at the last minute, but
That's okay.
on the
Uh,
awareness, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing that the California Department of Technology is reviewing um, the use of AI in California government, right? And so there's a whole series of guidance and standards that's going to come out
Well, that
to ensure we're doing it safely.
yeah, because like I said, you hear different horror stories from AI, and you don't want one thing going bad in this California state agency, like you know. But yeah,
Absolutely.
that's one of the things I'm learning about AI and different resources. And so what I'm telling people is to do your research before you get any to know about AI to understand
Hmm.
it. And so I did have a guest on. He did talk about AI, the do's and don'ts, and I'll send you the link to that as well.
Oh, that'd
Uh,
be great.
so, you know, one of the things, like I said, I didn't know what Department of Conservation was. I didn't know what resources you guys had. So I had to
Mm.
research everything before I had the interview. So people who are going to college and decide that they want to be CGS scientists or go in that field, what would you tell them? How would you um, you know,
So someone who's in college that's not a geology major, that might want to become a geologist, what would I tell them?
mhm.
Um, I would tell them to you know to work hard. Often it's not. Um, I'm looking for employees that are not necessarily that have all of the letters behind their name and the degrees. I'm looking for someone who's going to be, working hard, head down, willing to learn, um, and be curious. So being curious is very important because we are trying to solve scientific problems, and curiosity is going to lead you to solving those problems. It's a motivational thing. And then lastly, what I would tell them is um, when you enter the workforce, don't stay in one spot for too long.
Yeah.
Move around because you need a breadth of knowledge in this field because California's geology is the most complex and challenging geology there is in the country.
Yes.
And we have more formations than in any other state. Um, We have all natural hazards known to humankind in this state. So moving around is very important. If you want to specialize in something, then stay in one spot,
Right.
um, because you'll become very knowledgeable in one thing. If you want to move up, promote and manage, or do other things, you need to move around and gain experience.
Yes. And the other question I had, is there internships available for CGS students?
Yes, we do. We offer internships through the Sac State University Enterprises system. Um, and that is not only for Sac State students, it's for all UC state and junior college students that hold, or any accredited university that have, um, I think it's 6 semester units. And so we actually are actively advertising for geology interns right now.
Well, if you need help with that, and I can push it through Facebook or whatever, but that's my specialty. Um,
Okay.
when I was in college, I did human services, and I had to do 3 internships.
Wow.
So yeah, 3 internships. It's different for each department. So they actually wanted me to go to Skid Row, help with people on Skid Row. Unfortunately, I couldn't because it was at nighttime,
Oh.
and they wanted me to go on a bus. I'm disabled. I could not do that. So
Hmm.
I started to ask them if I could do some internships on campus, and they do have some internships on campus. One of the very first internships I ever did was Peer Health Sex Education 101.
Okay.
And so I had to pass out condoms to each of
Oh
the
boy.
it's funny now, and I can tell you
Yeah.
that. But so, and then I would actually bring some condoms home to give my mom to her sisters, and they would make at yeah. So oh, sorry. So
That's a
yeah, I mean
that's
it's interesting.
yeah, yeah.
My screen went like no. Where are you? Okay, sorry, that was my fault.
I'm still here. Yeah.
So I did that, and then I got to do more um was it proctoring special education. I did that. That was fun.
Okay.
And then the last one was kitty in church. So that's how I got to learn all the cool stuff about how to run the radio station, how to do all the. And then I took a biology class. So the
Hmm.
very first thing that the professor told us was to get your phone out and start taking pictures of the rocks because that would be your study guide. And I said, I never had a professional like that who would actually teach me how to use props. And he was okay with us taking pictures. And I'm like, wow, that's the first of its kind. Now, can you
Hmm.
tell that to other students that wants to be, you know what I mean? If
Yeah.
they,
Yeah.
yeah. Would you recommend that to students who want to be
Taking photos
mhm,
of rocks.
on rocks, of fault lines, or
Yeah, well, what I would suggest is I would suggest getting a very, if you're interested in rocks, you get a very basic rock and mineral identification book like this.
nice?
And not only take photos, but you go out to the field and you try to apply the information in this book to what you're
Okay,
seeing in the
yeah.
field.
Because could you send me in that picture? Because it's like I can barely see it on my end. So if you could send me that picture, that'd be awesome.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Um,
called Rocks and Minerals by Richard Dietrich and Brian Skinner.
so again, like I said, people out there want to learn more about CGS and they want to know more about Department of Conservation. They have no clue what we do over here. And so I think, oh, and okay, here's a question. What kind of tools do you guys use for CGS? How do you determine different rocks and different what are the rocks and materials? If that was
Oh, that is a really good question. So, so two things. a geologist that's trained in petrology will go to the field. We'll use a geologic pick hammer and a hand lens. A hand lens allows us to look at the crystals, the mineral crystals, right? And
Mhm.
so a rock is an aggregate of minerals, right? So
Right.
rock is comprised of a bunch of different minerals, and it's the percentages and the mineral types that allow us to classify the rocks. Um, or if the rock is comprised of sediment, it's the grain size of those sediments that allow us to classify the sedimentary rocks. So we utilize a pick hammer, a hand lens. Those are two basic things. Sometimes we bring a little bit of hydrochloric acid with us to determine if a rock has calcium carbonate in it, because it'll fizz if we put the acid on the rock. And we would go to an outcrop and we would crack on that thing with the hammer and get a fresh face. And we use our hand lens to identify the minerals. And then we have different classifications for the different rock types, right? So there's three different rock types: igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary, right? And each of those types of rocks has a set classification system that we use. We use our hand lens to identify the minerals and the structure, and then we'll take a book like that that has the classification system in it to describe the rock type.
So that's actually kind of cool. And then, okay, next question. Earthquakes. What kind of tools? I know you use some different tools for
Yeah.
the earthquakes. What is some? I can't pronounce it. I know what it is. I just cannot pronounce it off my head. So you could help me out with that one.
For detecting earthquakes,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So for detecting earthquakes, we use what's called a seismometer,
Mm-hmm.
um, and those detect the the shaking in three directions. Um, so, um, typically a north-south direction, an east-west direction, and a vertical direction. And that allows us the seismometer allows us to record the acceleration in all three of those directions to determine the peak ground acceleration that
Oh,
occurred from that earthquake. Um, that that information, goes back to a uh, a seismograph, which is the recorder, right? So seismometer is the sensor that detects. It sends the signal to the the seismograph, which is the recorder,
mm-hmm.
and then a seismogram is like the thing of squiggly lines where you see the 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 primary and surface waves. So you see the series of squiggly lines that show you. We typically call those waveforms. Um,
That was
but
at
those
the
are
health and science fair, right? That big huge machine where we actually stepped on and we saw the
oh yeah,
waves. Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
yeah,
Uh,
the little shake, make a shake, we call it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
And like I said,
Make a
on the
shake.
show, yeah, on the show, you're gonna find that I get more knowledgeable because I do my research before I go on.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love doing what I do. I love earthquakes, and my believe it or not, mom has a disaster movie marathon every weekend.
Oh, really?
So we have the movie San Francisco. We haven't watched it yet. Not the
Okay.
musical. There is a musical, by the way. I did
Okay.
not know. Um, and if you want, I could bring that into you, but we haven't watched it yet. So there was another movie that Gabe borrowed, and I can't think of it. Um, God, it was, I don't know, it was one of the movies. So again, we love watching disaster movies, and we love, was it the movie Earthquake? What was it, 1960s? They had the original Earthquake movie. I forgot what it was. But I can look that up and I'll send it to you as well. So it's like she
Oh,
said,
I remember which one you're talking about, right? There's people like stuck in tall buildings.
yeah.
Can't remember the name of that one. Well,
Well, anyways, I will send you the link. But yeah. So every weekend she likes to have disaster movies. She goes, "Oh, you got to tell your boss about this one. Oh, you got to tell your boss." So, um, I want to get more familiar with earthquakes, and I know there's a lot of people with disabilities who are not aware of safety and what are minerals and what are rocks. I would
Hmm.
love to have you back on the show with Jeff. Jeff was on the show before, and
Hmm. Hmm.
he's always teasing me because I like Dodgers and he likes San Diego Giants. So,
Oh, the San Francisco Giants. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Wendy, she was telling me she was at the game in the Astros when they had that big, huge earthquake in the 80s.
Hmm. Okay.
I forgot what was it, like late 80s, I think it was.
Oh, yeah. The Whittier Narrows earthquake, probably 1987.
Yeah, yeah, she
That
was
was
there in
the
the Astro Stadium, and she said there was a whole lot of shaking going on.
that was like a
So,
5.7 or 6.1, somewhere around there. But yeah, that was right under. That was almost right under downtown LA, so it would have shaken really hard.
so my
Yeah.
question: how far can an earthquake shake? How, I mean, where can they travel to?
Ah, that's a good question. Yeah, so they, the shaking is attenuated with distance, right?
Hmm.
So what I'm saying is, you know, the further you are away from the source, the lower the shaking you're going to feel. So we can like large earthquakes, so like the San Francisco earthquake, that was felt as far as like Reno, Nevada,
Yeah,
the far reaches of Northern California, and I think certainly LA and probably all the way down to San Diego. So to answer your question, there's relationships that you can find online that show you like a magnitude 8 is
yeah,
going to travel this distance, a magnitude 5 is going to travel this distance. Well, those larger earthquakes are going to send that energy much further away, hundreds of miles.
right,
But if that's a magnitude 8, it's shaking for 4 minutes. A
right,
magnitude 5 in the same place might only shake for several seconds,
right.
maybe 5 seconds. That's only going to send that energy, maybe less than 100 miles. So you're not going to feel it outside of that area.
Now, can you feel it in Las Vegas and Oregon?
If you had a magnitude 8 in San Francisco, yes. Um, and then if we take that all the way down to, what is the threshold of felt earthquakes, right? Well, it's around a magnitude 2.5 to 3 is where humans don't feel earthquakes anymore. Unless you're right over them, then you're not
Right,
going to feel it.
right.
So if you had a magnitude 3 right under the 715 P Street in downtown Sacramento, you're going to feel it. But if that magnitude 3 was, say, out in Dixon,
No, you're not gonna feel it.
you're not going to feel it. Yeah.
Well, it was weird because when we had the earthquake a few months ago, I think it was last year,
Hmm.
and my family felt it, but my mom said she didn't feel it in Rockland, and she had her feet set up, so that was kind of interesting. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Yeah.
Now, also, I read about that we have volcanoes here in California. How
Yeah.
many volcanoes here do we have in California? Do you know of? Do they are they active or are they not
I,
active?
I can tell you what the most dangerous ones are.
Okay.
So, well, first of all, the most recent eruption in California was Mount Lassen, and that erupted between 1914 and 1916.
Hmm.
That sent out large volumes of ash. Um, so Mount Lassen is in Plumas County,
Okay.
um, near Lake Almanor. So it's in the northeastern part of the state. That is the youngest rock in California.
Wow.
You can go find the lavas that came out, and that's the youngest rock that you'll find in California. So that the youngest rock in California is about 110 years old,
And
right?
what's
That's
the
pretty young.
oldest rock?
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, the oldest rock in California is about 2.2 billion years,
Wow.
which is nearly half of the age of the planet.
And what's that rock called?
It is a metamorphic rock called gneiss, and we find that in Southern California, and in the Mojave and parts of the Mojave Desert.
That's why
So,
we have, yeah.
so
We,
back to your volcano question. So Mount Lassen, right,
mm-hmm.
and then Mount Shasta, which is a stratovolcano in Shasta County. It's a 14,000 foot peak, right?
Yeah.
That erupted. I think its last eruption was 300 years ago, small eruption, but the last large eruption was, I think, maybe 10, 11,000 years ago.
See, I like this stuff. I don't know. It's just always fascinated me. So
Mount Shasta is the one, if it were to erupt catastrophically, it would be more similar to something like Mount Pinatubo that erupted in the Philippines. You remember back in, I think it was the 1990s.
I remember that. I was
Yeah.
in high school. So
Mhm.
and I wish we had more videos. Is there videos about CGS online, or is there a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we post videos on the Facebook page and on the Twitter page, and so there's a constant feed of videos and static photos. And then you can find technical presentations online from various CGS.
It was weird because I found earthquake songs on YouTube, and I
Okay.
was gonna do like how what is it, the Great Shake in October, and then put
Yeah.
like
Let's shake out.
earthquakes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
have earthquake songs together and put it
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So that's something I was thinking of. And so we did have a casualty when we had the earthquake last year. I had a little pumpkin and it took a tumble. It went like this. It was on the side.
Oh, really?
So
Huh.
Jacob was actually gonna, report it as a casualty because it was like this. So
A casualty.
yeah, and I think this month is emergency preparedness month. And then next month is our big one. When is the Great Shake Day? Do you know offhand?
It's called the Shakeout, the
Yep.
California Shakeout, and the date is. Give me 1 second because I don't want to mess it up the first time. It is going to be it's the Great California Shakeout, and it's October 17th.
Oh wow. Okay. And so, but we'll get alerts on both phones, right? Or is it only on your work phone? Or
Yes, they do. If you have, so let's, yeah, just to step back for a second, back what I mentioned before. If you have the MyShake app, they might send out a test earthquake.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
don't be alarmed. They will tell you it's a test.
Well, it was weird because Los Angeles recently had an earthquake, right? And they got
Yeah.
10 seconds alert before the earthquake even happened. They have not even downloaded my Shake app, which was kind of bizarre because they said, I think they ended up saying it was downgraded to 5.5.
There was a 5.2.
Right.
The Lamont earthquake was a 5.2. That was on August 6th at 9 in the morning.
And then there
Um,
was one at night.
that one they did get a really nice advanced warning. The other one was near Pasadena. That was a magnitude 4.4.
Yeah,
And
because it
some
was,
people got warnings and some people were too
yeah,
close to
they
the.
said it was centered over there by Bakersfield, and they felt it
Yeah,
all the way Southern California. I'm texting my friends, are you guys okay?
yeah.
So, and it's weird because they said, oh, you guys never get earthquakes in Sacramento. My family said that we never get earthquakes in Sacramento. I says, yes, we do. We get earthquakes in Sacramento.
We do, but Sacramento itself is in a sedimentary basin that has no active faults in the middle of the valley. The active faults are far to the west,
Yep.
um, so in the Coast Ranges, and then up near Tahoe. So we don't have earthquakes on faults that are under Sacramento, but we do feel earthquakes from distant faults,
Yeah.
which is good
Yeah.
because that means, back to the example before, the further you are away from the earthquake source, the less you're going to feel it, and the
Exactly.
less damage it's going to do.
Okay, Jeremy, we got to wrap it up because I know both of
Okay.
us want to have lunch.
Okay.
Final thought. What are your final thoughts for earthquakes and minerals? What do you think? Hopefully.
Earthquakes and minerals. Okay. Well, my final thoughts on minerals in California is that, we have a duty. I think geologists, the California Geological Survey, has a duty to identify and map minerals that support our state's decarbonization goals, right? We're trying to
Right.
lower greenhouse gas emissions. And so we need minerals that support the development of zero emission vehicles um, like electric cars.
Right.
And so minerals like lithium and cobalt and nickel are resources that we have in the state. Rare earth elements that are used in the motors, the electric motors of those vehicles, like neodymium and praseodymium, are very important. And California has the only rare earth mine where we can mine those in the entire country.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so resources. Where can they, if they ever want to contact you, where can
Hmm.
they contact you at?
Um, so so people can go to our website, right, which
Hmm.
is um, I didn't put all these together, but let me see if I can just pull it up really quick for you.
Or if you like, you can send it to me, so that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is, we're the California Geological Survey, and
Right.
we have organized all of our information for mineral resources, for earthquake hazards, for other geologic hazards are all organized on our webpage. And we provide maps and data and information pamphlets that are written, in basic, in plain, we'll call it plain language that I think anybody can read, um, that are worth accessing.
Okay, that would be
Mhm.
perfect. Thank
Yeah,
you, Jeremy. And then next time, I'm gonna have you, Jeff, and Wendy on the show, so we can all talk about different new exciting things that are happening at DOC. So
fantastic. Look forward
yes,
to it.
I'm trying to get Cindy on, but she's too shy. She doesn't want to. She goes, "I'm retired. I'm done." So, so this is the host, Michelle Padilla. You can find us on YouTube, iTunes, anywhere on social media. We have a huge following, and I want to make sure that you guys are aware that developmental disabilities, first time ever, has a master plan, and we are actually going to be part of that. So we're looking forward to that. And then we have a whole bunch of events going on, especially the health fair that's coming up, Jeremy, September 17th, and that will be open enrollment as well. So a lot of stuff going on. And we do not talk about politics on the show. We try to keep it fun. And so stay tuned for the next guest. I have lined up three more guests on the show, so I'm coming back slowly. Thank you, Jeremy, and I hope you have the rest of the weekend off.
Thank you, Michelle. It was a pleasure.
Thank
You have a
you.
great day.
You too.
Mhm.